What is going on out there, world? It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watchalong Wrestling. Thanks so much for joining us here. It is another week, another episode of Tough Enough. Crazy to think that we are already towards the end of July here and already halfway through our rewatch of the 20th anniversary of WWE Tough Enough, as my buddy Steve and I have been getting you through each of the first 5 episodes and are here today. First time for a while for us. You probably wouldn't have noticed because we have been each week uploading episodes, but we are now, for the first time, when this episode ends, it will actually be the same day that it will go up, as it is officially July the 26th. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good right now. Ask me in another week, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to respond to that because we go back to school next week. So, but, we'll see.
Well, yes, you officially start back at work next week. Is that correct?
Yeah. So teachers go back next week, and then first day of classes, I believe, is going to be August 12th. So
that is tough. Here, me, I'm even though we are recording right now, it's about 11:45 p.m. Probably the first time that we ever recorded this late, and probably the last time, at least for quite some time, that we'll do this. But it's been a crazy time. I had taken the family out to Sesame Place, came back just yesterday, and then a whole bunch going on today for both of us. And so we weren't able to connect, but wanted to make sure that we got our episode in here. Steve, last we spoke, you were getting ready to head down to, I think it was Tennessee for your birthday. How was that trip?
Yeah, well, up from our perspective, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Where did you parts of Tennessee did you guys go to visit?
So we went to like the Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area, which are right next to each other. Where is there's a lot of it's up in the Smoky Mountains. So we did some hiking, we did some moonshine tasting, and moonshine crawl, that kind of thing. And it's also where Dollywood is. So I would say, yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've only had moonshine once in my life. It was in New Orleans, Louisiana, WrestleMania 30 weekend. And I had been given my wife's cousin is a culinary expert, and both of them were chefs. And so they said, don't ask what anything is, just enjoy it. And they gave me my first shot of moonshine. I was like, what is this? And that was the very last thing I remembered of the evening, because it was about as strong as anything I'd ever had in my life.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, so most moonshine, especially if you're thinking like old school moonshine, it's not going to taste the best. It's going to burn going down, and, it can make you go blind if you're not careful. But these distilleries, because they've been at it for so long, they actually have it's more, they're geared more towards like flavored moonshine stuff. So we have some like blue raspberry and watermelon and like apple pie flavors and like a bunch of different other ones. So they make it so that you could potentially drink it straight if you really want to, but it's definitely more of we're going to mix it into cocktails so you don't taste that heavy burning moonshine actual flavor. Because I had some straight moonshine too, and I could see how that can make you go blind.
Oh yeah, it was insane, and but good memories. I'm glad you had a very nice trip, up to the Smoky Mountains, and maybe on our Disney channel we'll be able to do more of our Disney YouTube page. Maybe we'll bring that back and do more of a detailed account of your trip, and maybe even my detailed account of my Sesame Place trip, because I don't think too many of the wrestling fans here want to hear a blow by blow of my trip to Sesame Place. But it was a fun time. Nonetheless, always good to go away with the family. Since we've been here, a former WWE World Champion and one of your all-time favorites, actually two, have made their return to WWE, one of which is Goldberg, who's been there many a time over the last couple of years. And another one is and of course, Goldberg of Tough Enough fame, as just a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago here on the show, was the infamous Triple H episode where Triple H buries Goldberg something fierce, much to my adulation, as I've never been a Goldberg guy, and I'm certainly not a Goldberg guy now. But I do recognize that maybe somebody like yourself or folks like yourself who maybe haven't been watching the week-to-week of WWE TV, maybe they wear a suit to work each day, maybe they have a family of their own, and maybe somewhere deep buried down in the trenches of their drawers, they have an old NWO or Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt. And if they hear that Goldberg's wrestling at SummerSlam, it probably means much more to them than if any other random person on the WWE roster in the current crop of talent. So I do recognize the appeal of someone like a Goldberg.
Yeah, and I mean, Goldberg was WCW's Rock. He was WCW Stone Cold. So, not as far as like going up, anti-establishment, that kind of thing, but the marketability of that one single wrestler, yeah, they had the NWO, and don't get me wrong, I had plenty of NWO t-shirts, and I probably still do have one lying around somewhere. But Goldberg was their it guy. And, he was the guy that would, he went on that massive winning streak. And, he was kind of if you didn't like NWO, you liked Goldberg. And then that was kind of the end of it.
Yeah. And I think me, growing up more as a WWF kid, I just didn't really watch too much WCW. But I do think one of the cooler things I remembered about Goldberg is somebody had gifted me Goldberg's autobiography for a birthday one year because they weren't aware that I only watched WWF. And one of the cooler things is at the back of Goldberg's autobiography. I don't know. Have you ever seen his book?
No, I haven't. I didn't even know he had an autobiography, to be honest.
Yeah. Way early in his WCW run. And on the back of his autobiography is the back of his head wearing a yarmulke. And I remember being like, that is so cool that badass is Goldberg is also Jewish. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. Like, as a growing up as a young Jewish kid, you don't have a whole lot of Jewish sports icons to look up to. You got Sandy Koufax, and him, and that was about it. So,
Vampire Slayer. I remember hearing that Sarah Michelle Gellar was Jewish and being like, she's the most badass Jew that we had to look up to.
Oh yeah, Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song was great because it was like, wow, that person's Jewish too? Huh? Didn't know that.
Exactly. So that was the only thing about Goldberg. But Goldberg was not the only big name to return to WWE. And it's funny because just a week or two ago on the show here, we had talked about our favorite, one of my favorite live moments and one of your least favorite live moments that people had compared this moment to. And that, of course, being the return of John Cena. And our moment that we had talked about was at the Royal Rumble 2008 when Cena had returned way ahead of schedule from an injury. We were both there live for that. And many folks had compared that moment to this moment. Did you get a chance to see John return and the moment there at this past, a couple weeks ago's, I guess last Sunday's Money in the Bank?
Yeah, I did see that. I didn't see it happen live, but I did see the clip of it actually happening later on. And I mean, I appreciate the fact that when he came in, he owned up to the fact that people usually boo him.
Right.
And not to disparage anything of the anything that's going on recently, but I think one of the more popular comments that I did see was, isn't that kind of the state of the way WWE things are in the company right now, where people are hailing the return of John Cena? And I mean, I don't know, I did actually check out SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was good. It was solid. One of the things that I did like, and one of the things that I had commented to you about, was how I really liked and appreciated how much the women's division has grown over the couple of years.
Yeah.
And especially considering that the past couple of weeks in Tough Enough, what we've seen with the women wrestlers and how, they're kind of in the background to a certain extent. So hope to see more of that moving forward. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that it is really cool that they've been they are presented on an even footing as the men now in WWE and are definitely taken much more serious. But for me, I mean, when Cena had returned, I remember I had told you I'd woken up my wife and I'd watched the show very late because we'd gotten back late, so I didn't watch the show till about 2 a.m. And I said, you've got to come see this. And she is not a Cena fan either, but even her, when she came out and saw that, she was like, all right, that is pretty cool. And I think for us, I mean, we're going to SummerSlam in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, so I think we're definitely amped up now for that big Roman Reigns John Cena showdown. But I think the one thing I appreciated most about Cena's return, is the fact that this guy is now a pretty big movie star. He's going to be in Squad, which is a big deal. He's getting a spin-off show based on his character in Suicide Squad, to the best of my understanding. That's going to be on HBO Max. And so he is getting a good amount of work. Most of the movies I've seen of Cena's so far have been John Cena playing John Cena in this role.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that's cool. And another piece is, like, I don't think anyone has mastered the speech after the show ends when you get on the house mic, you thank everyone for coming and send the crowd home happy, as well as Cena does. I saw the clip there when he does mention, usually you people are booing me or whatever. And it's been, and he does a great job of putting the bow on it. And even when you'd hate him and you'd boo him and want him off the show and, I just want this guy to lose, at the end of the night, you'd kind of go, all right, Cena, yeah, sounds good. All right, we'll see you next time. I think he's well when it comes to that.
So to that point about how John Cena basically plays John Cena in all of his movies, I feel like that's The Rock also to an extent.
A little bit.
You can't. The thing is that there are certain actors that you can kind of put up that suspension of disbelief, and you can kind of lose yourself and see that character lose himself in the role as well. Like Gary Oldman is a great example. Like, you cannot tell Gary Oldman apart from one role to another, but The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, is always Dwayne Johnson. He is always The Rock in every single one of his movies, even though he's playing completely different characters.
Yeah.
So something that I think we might want to revisit at some point would be our top crossover wrestler into actors, because I know who my number one is. And I
like that idea. I don't know if you want to ruin who your number one crossover would be.
It is somebody that we've actually talked about, like, off and on for a little while now, that we've both said that we've become very big fans of recently.
Would it be Batista then?
No.
I know for me, probably the best John Cena cameo, as far as Cena's movies go, I haven't seen too many of them. I did watch the one where he was like the firefighter, and my wife looked at me in the middle of that movie and was like, we are only watching this movie because John Cena's in this movie. If there's any other actor, we're not giving it 5 minutes. But I thought it was okay. But there's a clip, one of the first cameos he ever did was in Daddy's Home. I think it was 1 or 2. Have you seen Daddy's Home?
I have not, but I've heard of it, and I've seen probably clips of it.
And there is I watched it on a family vacation once with my fam, and it was one of these deals where at the end, basically Mark Wahlberg's the big badass in the movie. He's kind of rough around against Will Ferrell, and at the end, he now has kind of found his soft spot, and it turns out his ex-wife is now dating somebody else, so he's about to meet the new boyfriend, similarly to how Will Ferrell did in the beginning of the movie. Yeah. And coming through on this motorcycle, rips off the helmet, and it's John Cena. And I think my family and we all lost it. Like, we were not expecting it at all, and it was pretty damn cool. So I think that's definitely one of mine. But I'm trying to think of who yours could be, of who we are pretty fond of. Oh man, is it Triple H?
No, not Triple H either. I think I'm gonna hold on to it for now in case we do revisit at some point.
That's a fun list, and we'll have to take a look at that somewhere down the road. But as we do transition here now back into Tough Enough and start to talk about that, before we get to Tough Enough, I guess I should continue my gimmick here. And I was a little nervous. My wife and I got back from a date night. We had tried to sleep our daughter, and I was very much like, oh my gosh, I need a wrestling shirt. If we're going to be recording, I have to change into one here close to midnight. But I do have here the Young Bucks wrestling shirt.
Okay.
Pro Wrestling. Thank goodness for Pro Wrestling Crate, because I started this gimmick, and I don't really have that many wrestling shirts, but Pro Wrestling Crate comes through with 2 wrestling shirts every single month. So check them out at pwtees.com, prowrestlingtees.com. I don't even know if it is PWTs. Prowrestlingtees.com. A fun little subscription box, and you can always get 2 different wrestling shirts, sometimes of your more recent stars, like your AEW stars in the Young Bucks, or the Legends, like I've had the Sergeant Slaughter shirt, or a couple of those. So, but as we transition here into episode 6 of Tough Enough, where we last left off, we did bid adieu to our good friend Daryl from the show. This episode, I'm not entirely sure why, is very short. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did, actually, yeah.
It's only 20 minutes, so I'm not sure what that's about. But there is going to be another cut here. I have no idea who is going to get cut next, but if they're what you've seen thus far, do you know who's getting cut next?
I don't know, actually. Yeah, no, I think I was looking at some of the some of the little like blurbs that they put on before, the synopsis of the shows and everything. And I honestly don't know. And I'm trying to look at and see, like, maybe like get some of the thumbnails about who's still on there and everything like that. But I honestly don't know either.
Who would you think, and the folks that are left, as to who you would say is probably next on the chopping block looking into this episode? I think where we've left it off, we have the 3 women left. I think obviously Taylor, Nydia, Dina are left. And then on the men's side of things, if I'm not mistaken, we still have Shadrick, both Chris Harvard, and the other kind of shorter Chris, who was macking into Nydia earlier in the season. Maven, Josh, and Greg.
Okay. So if I had to go, so I want to say, I feel like it's going to be one of the girls that goes.
Could be.
So what was the third girl's name? It wasn't Paulina or Nydia. What was the other one? Taylor. Okay, so I think it might be Taylor, or my second guess would be Shadrick, if it's a guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Shadrick because he's somebody I don't remember very, very well.
Yeah.
And smaller Chris. I think it's got to be one of those two who are on the chopping block if it is a male. I assume they'll keep a couple women left just because there's so few left.
Right. Yeah, like that's the other thing. But I'm thinking, like, maybe if they do, like, like if they switch back and forth, like go girl boy kind of thing.
Right.
Maybe do that. So I think we'll be able to tell off the bat, because if throughout the episode they do start to focus on one of those people, that usually is a sign that that person is on the chopping block. So we'll see.
Yeah, that last episode was all about Daryl and all the things he was doing to annoy everybody. Yeah. And then they go from there. So, all right. Well, do you have your show already all set up?
I do.
All right. So I will let you count us down here, and then we'll begin the show.
All right. So here we go. I'll add all of our zeros. We're all ready to go in 3, 2, 1. Click.
If they ever start for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And as long as you're started, we actually have a different intro this time around.
Yeah.
So focus more on the actual contestants than the random B footage of other WWE matches.
Good call on that. You're right. And it's kind of like a little profile piece of each one of them, too, to show kind of where.
Even though a lot of them are actually already out through, their own means, or.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I
Jason,
like
Daryl.
It shows a lot more of the, it's kind of what you'd see now if you watch like a Big Brother or anything like that, is you'd see each contestant flashed on there. Exactly. I do like the last spinning image you see is of Vince McMahon putting on the headset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy Chris there is I don't think he's necessarily long for it.
No, and then right after that they show Shadrick. So
yeah, it could be either one. I think
two of the front runners get eliminated.
Or like between those two, who's gonna get cut? A little more here of the trainings, and you can see now each person is getting much more comfortable with the whole bump piece.
Yeah, and it's still amazing to me how we're now 5-6 weeks in, and they're still just doing those simple front bumps and back bumps, and like how much it takes to nail those things down, and how much of it is just that.
Yeah. And basically, Big's whole role there is he's just evaluating everyone. He's just sitting there, like how uncomfortable. Not only are you there with the wrestlers who are definitely like evaluating every single thing you do, but you have Big just sitting at the edge of the apron, looking in and kind of watching your every move there.
Right. Well, and he is also probably out of all of them, the one has the most weight, because he's the one that's saying, okay, who's the most marketable? Who actually can? Who's going to be the biggest superstar?
Yeah, you can tell he has Vince McMahon's ear.
Yeah.
He also is the most weight because he's a pretty big bitch.
Yeah.
Josh here looks, 13, 14 years old.
Right.
Yeah. Guy.
To be fair, though, if that one of the reasons I always thought that Rey Mysterio had a mask on is because if he didn't have the mask on, he would look also like he was a 12-year-old. So, I mean, size is probably a disadvantage, but not always.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's probably how, honestly, I'd fall, is the way he's doing that right now with his arms out there, ready for the break, because you're used to doing that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, and Taz is exactly right. Like, you can't, it needs to, as much as, yes, it is choreographed and orchestrated and everything like that, you can't have it come off looking completely 100% orchestrated like that. Like, it needs to still look organic.
Yeah. And now this is the footage here of everyone talking on the phone, basically talking about how horrible everything is. And they're all
a relic of the past, corded telephones, corded house phones.
Oh, wow. Talk about sign of the times here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still have places like this.
Absolutely. But I think the way they're presenting this is like you're now.
That's true.
Oh, they're going in there and messing with you. And,
right.
You know, I think these are definitely much more of the norm, I'd say, now. And,
yeah. As she makes up a good point about how, exposing people to new and different things.
Yeah. And it's very true. I mean, you think about it, we're here in New York, so we're from New York.
Yeah.
So, like, all diversity all the time. We don't even think, anything of it. And now here you've got, these guys here. Greg took 5 seconds to. Look at Chris Harvard looking like he's at any frat party in Harvard now, and totally involved in everything. So.
Someone had to do it, and Big chose me to do it. I'm glad he did because I'm scared I'm man enough.
I think Big chose Maven to do it, probably because Maven at this point, I mean, when he was first in the auditions, he's over there winking at Nitty, at Jackie, and all charisma.
Right.
But after that, I feel like he hasn't really done much to differentiate himself. So I think this was Big's way of being like, hey, let's try to get a little personality out of the guy a bit.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe we can get him to come out of his shell a little bit. Maybe see what he actually has.
Yeah.
But like how, maybe the gimmick that you're gonna get when you come into the WWE isn't necessarily your choice or your idea. So you still need to present it and own it, regardless of what they come up and what they kind of make you wear.
Exactly. Yeah, Tori here is having some trouble here already as a trainer with some of the folks utilizing her.
Yeah.
Now, as a trainer, they're beating her up because they're all nervous and trying to, I guess, figure out the best way to fall and do these same time they're killing poor Tori.
Well, it's kind of like when somebody's drowning, that's why you don't go over and swim to them, because with out of instinct they might try and grab onto you and pull you down with them. So it's a similar type of thing that I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not looking good for Shadrick here.
Not looking too good, especially if but it seems like they really like him. Like everyone except me, Tori got a little pissed at him, but Jackie talked earlier as we hit a commercial break here. Are you also on a commercial break?
Yes, yes, I am actually. Yeah.
30-second commercial break?
No, mine was started with 45.
It's okay though, because I do think you started a little bit before mine. I think I had some trouble getting my started. So I guess I'll let you know when my thing ends, and then you can go from there.
Okay.
So I am now at 5 seconds and getting back over to the main program. And once I do, here,
I have 10 seconds left.
And we'll go from there.
We'll sync up here again. So I got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and pause a little bit, and I'm back.
All right. I don't know. We're all. Is he on the phone with his mother here saying you can't?
I can't. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if Maven just said, "Oh no, I definitely don't want to be a part of this," he'd be the next one cut for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I mean, some of these kids remember, like, obviously everyone knows 20 years later, Maven wins. His gimmick when he wins is basically tough enough winner Maven.
Yeah.
But Lydia's gimmick is, a trailer park couple with Jamie Noble.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Making out with all the fans and making out with Michael Cole and all this other. So you never know.
At least she had a gimmick. Like Maven just kind of came out there, like, but I feel like that is more of maybe a thing nowadays where I feel like when I look at it, there's not as much. You don't have that kind of over the top gimmick. You don't have your Undertakers and Goldust and even like Mankind and those kinds of like over the top gimmicks. It's more of personality can shine through a little bit more maybe.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's why, one of the things, one of the gimmicks they're doing, I do love this. Everyone's having a Monday Night Raw pizza party. So everyone's watching, eating some pizza. But yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, one of the more popular characters going on right now is this Baron Corbin. He's a guy who was the king, and now he's down on his luck losing the crown, and they've actually started a website GoFundMe because he's lost all of his money, and they've started a GoFundMe for him. They haven't put it live because I think they noticed if they really put it live, people are going to donate to this thing.
Yeah,
what I'm talking about, because it's finally someone's a little bit over the top in their character, like suspension of disbelief. They just showed a clip there of Edge and Christian with the kazoos, and like that was some of the most entertaining stuff back then.
Oh yeah. And I mean, Edge and Christian coming up out of the ground with Gangrel, like one of the best entrances ever. Like,
yeah. Josh seems very unhappy right now. I think he's unhappy, questioning maybe the heart of some of the folks that are, some of the other folks that are there.
Yeah.
I do vaguely remember that, right? That Maven's mom was going through cancer while he was there.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of from the reality TV perspective, that makes him a sympathetic character. It makes him, like somebody you want to pull for and root for.
Yeah, it's very true. I really think this part of it here, if I'm not mistaken, this kind of started to, this coming to light and realizing this guy's doing this while his mom's going through all this, but he's still not making any excuses. He's coming there every day, working hard. I think definitely kind of showed a little bit of, everything that he was going through. Yeah, I think it's definitely between Shadrick or that Chris there.
Yeah. Other Chris. Not Harvard Chris.
Not Harvard Chris. Oh. The guy who looks like he's straight out of the Hot Topic store with his,
the choker and the earrings and yeah.
That's got to be just banging and banging and banging. One after another after another. It's got to be so tough.
Yeah.
Even with a huge mat there, it's still got.
And it's also probably not great for the person that's doing the hip toss either, because you got to still, and you got to make sure that, there's a lot of responsibility too as you carry that person through that move.
Yeah. Oh, he's gotten benched here, has Shadrick. Things not looking good for Shadrick. Yeah. I think Al was upset that he looked like he was taking the bump before he got to the hip toss, making it look fake.
Yeah.
Don't want to do.
Well, and that's also like when you start to brace yourself before it's even coming, that's gonna, when you tense your body up like that, that's gonna do yourself a disservice on top of the fact that it doesn't look good.
Right. Which is Al's way of saying, if you screw up, you're going to hear about it from the crowd as they loudly chant, "You effed up."
Oh, yeah.
On the top of their lungs. And if you're in a bingo hall, they will jump for joy as they scream, "You effed up," as if it is the highlight and the whole reason of going to the show.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that was kind of one of the great things about going to those indie shows was going off and doing ridiculous chants. So,
we see daylight when it's 3 a.m. and they're just figuring out how to put the cage together. It's like, what are we doing? We don't care this much. Oh,
that was a real bad one.
Building it up, it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be Chris or it's going to be Shadrick.
Yeah, it was bad for both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, that's brutal, man. I mean, that's.
And I mean, it's from our perspective, it's hard to say that I would be able to do it better.
Right.
Because I probably wouldn't, to be honest.
Right.
But, at the same time, at this point, they've probably had multiple weeks of daily training.
Right.
And so kind of one of those things where if you're not getting better at this point, they kind of have to cut you.
Right. Yeah, me off the couch, bright red sunburn with a Young Bucks shirt, probably not. But my entire job is this day after day after day after day. Maybe I would get it after a while.
Right.
Oof.
That was actually, I think, I'm hitting another commercial.
Yeah, I'm at a minute here for my commercial break.
Got 45 seconds. But I like that where it's like, I want you to keep messing up so that he knows what it feels like when he messes up.
Right.
Like, please keep doing that.
Yeah. Just such a mess. And they are, really, it's one of those things too. I'll never forget one of my favorite chants of the indie show was when the entire crowd was, we had gone the day before Easter. And the whole crowd, as it was waiting to get to, you're probably at your end of your commercial break?
Yeah.
I'm at about seconds left of mine, and then we'll count them down. As they're showing an Alexa Bliss commercial.
Yeah, I got that too. I was going to say something.
From Law and Order. All right, so 3, 2, 1, and we're back for the remainder of the show. But the crowd was sitting there, and as it was 11:59, they all started, oh, and then once it hit midnight, everyone was, Happy Easter. This is like the silliest stuff.
Yeah.
Only happened at an indie show.
Right, because only indie shows will go until midnight to begin with, so.
Right. We're probably like 5 matches left at that point, too. And
yeah. We're going to take a quick intermission here. We've reached about halfway point.
That is finally starting to see like the Josh Matthews, who walks around saying he's the best commentator in the whole world. Starting to see a little Josh Matthews here, where he's telling people if he's 6'3", no way is this even a competition, because it feels like he's a small guy, and I mean that's the first thing you can't help but notice.
Right.
And going through
going over everybody one by one.
He really is, though. Every single bump, like 100 feet in the air. He's only 15 years old. Leave him alone.
Right. He is still going through puberty, so.
Exactly. Eesh. Yeah, I think it's going to be Chris going home. I think Shadrick is going to last. He's not long for the world, but I think he's going to pull through. Maybe get one more week out of this. I do think Jackie really likes him. Taz isn't like pulling for him, whereas like Chris just seems like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a slim one.
Right.
today he was at ringside crying and kind of got to me. I went up to him and asked him,
Oh, man.
"Hey, what's wrong?" He was like,
Oh, Jackie's got a soft spot for old Shad here.
"Something good."
I don't think. I think they give the kid one more chance because I think they like him. I mean, he's a nice kid, and but it's like that's the biggest thing.
It feels like either way, it feels like for both of these guys, whichever one doesn't get picked, it's a stay of execution, where he's going to be the one that goes next week.
Yeah, these guys are both crushed. They're crying here. They're all down in the dumps. I feel like Daryl was kind of like, all right, well, we all know Daryl's probably.
Yeah.
You get past him, the competition begins, and you can tell they all really want this. They're all really excited about it, and one of them is clearly going home here. So we shall see.
For a second, I thought I was going to get another commercial break, but I guess I didn't.
They confused me by not taking a commercial break clearly when the original show did.
Right.
And it's interesting because every other show is about 23 to 27 minutes. So clearly there's something that was cut out of this first show. I don't know this show here. I don't know what it was.
Unless maybe because with all those other ones, there was all the like kind of extra bonus footage. So maybe there wasn't any for this episode to put in.
That is very true.
First thing gets cut. This is something you truly want. I said before, please don't let this be the end. You guys get up from your chairs.
I think for most of them, this was the end of it. So,
right.
If they got cut, not so much like in the later seasons. As we continue on watching these seasons each year, you'll notice a lot of the folks in the later seasons, the ones who don't make it, actually have the better careers than the ones who do.
Yeah, almost like American Idol.
Yeah.
Well, I feel you got Chris Nowinski. He winds up making something for a little while. Josh, he goes on to be a commentator.
Yeah.
See, look at that. It is Shadrick.
You're right. Ah, man. Yeah. Well, and that guy Greg there, I know he goes on and has a good career in doing like deathmatchy type stuff for CZW.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know this only until I was starting to look up things about some of the past. That definitely is a little bit of a shock for me. I thought they'd give him one more chance, and like they all genuinely liked him. Whereas it seemed like Chris, they were all getting pretty tired of. But them's the breaks, and that is the end of Shadrick here. And now we are down one extra contestant. And
I think what did it for him was that he was kind of taking the rejection so harshly, and the disappointment where, yeah, it's okay to get frustrated, but you kind of have to handle that frustration properly. And I don't think to them he handled it properly.
Yep, I agree. I mean, it's kind of just like the business world. You have to be able to accept constructive feedback. And if your way you're going to handle it is sitting down there and crying, Jackie's having a really hard time with this.
Right? Yeah, this is rough.
But yeah, I mean, I've given folks feedback in the past, and I've always really appreciated when they've, been accountable and said, hey, all right, I'll work on it. And, it can be hard conversations to have. They're never easy to have. But if the answer sometimes is, hysterically crying, makes things tough. It's like no one really has time for that.
Right. Well, and, the cuts are going to also start feeling a little bit deeper, too, because the first couple, when, they've only been in the house a couple of weeks.
Right.
You don't really miss them as much. Like that guy, Jason, like I don't really miss him anymore. But now that they've spent more time together, it's going to hurt more.
Yeah. I think for me too, now we've been watching these guys now for 6 weeks, and you get to know them a little bit. In the beginning, they trimmed all the fat. Does have a very cool Stone Cold Cherry was in, though, I will say.
Yeah.
Jacqueline is really having. She clearly liked the guy a lot, and just didn't work out. I will say they would add a little bit. So, and I think in later seasons they do this. I always remember the cut. I don't remember the way they did the cuts here. Looks like next week we get to see our Olympic hero. It's true. As Kurt Angle visits the house. But I remember the way that they've done the cuts toward the later seasons, certainly with Al Snow, and then later on with Austin. It was fantastic when they brought the series back. Al would go over and he'd kind of look at each person and stare at them, tell them what they need to do to improve, and then say you're safe. Then eventually look at the person and say you're cut. I don't remember this whole look into your locker and find a red key thing, but I think that the way to do it, the way they adapted the change of it rather later on was a little better. I think it added to the kind of drama aspect of things.
Yeah, because I feel like, there's no, all of the times where they go in and they just look for the red tag, it feels very anticlimactic.
Yeah, it really is just kind of like, oh, and also there's no like notice of what's going to happen. It just shows them all opening up the thing. Oh, guess I'm safe. Oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it's like, no, then you get the red tag and
right.
But another contestant gone from the show, and now leaves us just with some quick math here. Let's 8 left. On the female side of things, we've got Paulina, we've got Taylor, and we've got Nydia. And on the male side of things, we've got Maven, Josh, Chris Harvard, other Chris, and Greg. I gotta come up with a better name for other Chris. Maybe I'll have him be
Hot Topic Chris.
What's that?
Hot Topic Chris.
Hot Topic Chris. There you go. Especially at that 2001, I feel like Hot Topic and Spencer Gifts were all the rage, and all the places you'd go for first stop for the trip to the mall. There would be the first 2 places you'd go. So
absolutely.
So we will get next week into our halfway point. Crazy to think we're already almost halfway through the episode here. We'll have to make sure we film nice and early on Saturday or Sunday morning. Steve will be returning already back to school, which is interesting here because here in New York, summer school is still for another 2 weeks, and then they take like a 3-week break until the actual school starts.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I remember going in New York. It was always right after Labor Day was when you guys would come back, right?
Yeah, right after Labor Day. And I think because we live across the street from a school, they have a little sign there. Because basically for a long time, they had a little no parking during school days. But forever, when everything was virtual, people would park. They never announced they were coming back. And then they eventually did come back without any announcement. And there was a period of about 6 weeks or so where I was the only car left there, and I'd walk through, and there'd be all these school buses lined up.
Oh, no.
There, and everyone would be hating on me, and then eventually I did get a ticket for parking there, and then I stopped, which is, I think they were like, you were where?
Right, like we gave you plenty of shots, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. So what can you do? But looking forward to the episode next week. Glad we were able to get the episode in, and now, because originally I had told Steve that potentially we could get this in before I start work, but now I'll be able to edit the episode and get it ready to go and live for our 12 noon launch, which we usually launch here at 12 noon on Mondays. All right. So until next time, everybody, thanks so much for checking us out. Make sure you do leave a big thumbs up and subscribe to Watchalong Wrestling, and we will see you guys next week for episode 7 with a little visit from Kurt Angle, as he will come and chat with the contestants in the house as we're getting down to the nitty-gritty at the halfway point of Tough Enough Season 1. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Steve?
No, not really. Just can't wait to keep going with this, and hopefully, we'll see you real soon.
Sounds good, everyone. Take care.